I sat in my worn-out chair, the one I bought with my own hands years ago, the chair that once held authority in the house. The house felt empty now, almost too quiet for its own good. The world outside seemed to move on, while I remained stuck in the middle of memories, torn between the past and present. It's late afternoon, the sky turning a faint shade of orange, the sun setting as if it too was trying to escape the loneliness I felt. I've always been one to hold things in, never letting emotions break free too easily. I suppose that's why, even now, I don't show how much it hurts to be invisible. I watch my son Carl through the cracks in the door to his office as he talks to Veronica, his wife, about business deals and appointments. They barely notice I'm there. Carl's laugh fills the house, but I can't help but feel a sharp pang in my chest every time I hear it. It's a laugh that used to be mine, a laugh I once made sure everyone heard. It was my presence that held the family together, but now it feels like I'm just an afterthought, a shadow in my own home. I don't know when things started to change. It was slow, like the tide creeping in little by little until one day it was too high to ignore. I used to make decisions, to be the one who everyone came to for advice, but now I just watch. I watch Carl work late into the night, and I watch Veronica lock the door to his office before they both go to bed. Every night she locks it, like clockwork, and every night I wonder what's behind it. The door feels like a barrier, one that keeps me out, keeps me from knowing what's happening in my own family. It's like I'm not allowed to see, to know, to be part of their lives anymore. The more I watch, the more I feel like I'm losing something precious. The office isn't just a room anymore. It's a symbol of everything I've been shut out from, a reminder that no matter how hard I work to build this family, I'm now left on the sidelines. Carl has always been a good son, or at least I thought he was. He's successful running his own business, and I'm proud of him, but I can't shake the feeling that he's distancing himself from me. Veronica, on the other hand, has always been a bit of a mystery. She's controlling, manipulative, and has found a way to push me further and further into the background. She makes all the decisions now, running the house, the finances, even our interactions. When she locks that office door every night, I can't help but feel like she's keeping something from me. But what could it be? I've thought about confronting them, but each time I try, something holds me back. Maybe it's the years of silence that have built up between us. Maybe I'm just afraid of the truth. After all, what difference does it make? They've already made it clear that they don't need me, so why would it matter if I knew what was behind that door? I remember a time when I was the one everyone came to. I remember when my opinion mattered, when my voice was heard. Now I'm just a forgotten man in his own home. I'm not even sure when it started to change. Was it when Carl started to get busier, or when Veronica took over everything? Either way, I can feel the distance between us growing. I think about it every night, waiting for that moment when they finally notice I'm still here, still trying to hold everything together. But it never comes. I'm not a fool. I know what's happening. And every night as Veronica locks that office door, I feel a little more helpless. I could confront them. I could demand answers. But I don't. Instead, I just sit here, staring at the locked door, wondering if I should care more than I do. What's the point? The more I think about it, the more I realize that maybe I've been avoiding something. Maybe, just maybe, there's something behind that door that I'm not ready to face. I've spent my whole life trying to do the right thing, trying to be the good father, the good husband, but now I don't even know who I am anymore. The thought of walking up to that door, turning the handle and stepping inside, it feels like a step toward something I can't control, but still, I watch. I tell myself I won't do it. I tell myself that it's not worth it. But something inside me tells me I'm running out of time. Maybe I should just leave it alone. After all, it's not like it would change anything. But then again, maybe it's the only thing that could. Every night, that door gets locked. Every night, I feel that sinking feeling in my chest. I've watched it happen for months, and yet I still can't bring myself to do anything about it. But tonight feels different. There's a weight in the air tonight, something heavy, something I can't ignore anymore. As I sit there looking at the door, I realize one thing. The truth has been staring me in the face for so long, and I've been too afraid to look. But tonight, I will. I'm not sure what I'll find, but I know I can't keep pretending that it doesn't matter. I can't keep ignoring the thing that's been haunting me for months. And maybe, just maybe, tonight will be the night I finally find the courage to open that door. It had been a week since I first noticed the lock on Carl's office, and every night, as I sat in my chair, the image of that door haunted me. I couldn't shake it. It was always there, a constant reminder of what I wasn't a part of anymore. Each night, Veronica would lock that office, and every time she did, something inside me twisted. It wasn't just the fact that the office was locked. It was the secrecy that seemed to hover in the air. The whole act felt deliberate, like a symbol of my exclusion from something important. And for the first time in years, I wasn't sure if I should sit back and accept it or do something about it. I couldn't help but wonder, what was behind that door? Why did it need to be locked every night? Veronica's meticulous behavior, always locking it at exactly 10 p.m., made it seem like some kind of ritual. I found myself watching her as she did it, the sound of the key turning in the lock echoing in my mind. I hadn't said anything about it before. Maybe I hadn't cared enough, or maybe I had been too afraid of the truth, afraid that confronting them would only make things worse. But now I couldn't ignore it. Not anymore. The frustration inside me had grown too big to ignore. For years, I'd kept my mouth shut, accepted my place as a bystander in my own family. But this was different. There was something bigger happening here. And for the first time in years, I felt a deep, gnawing need to do something about it. My thoughts kept returning to that door. I tried to convince myself that it wasn't important, that it didn't matter, but deep down, I knew it did. What were they hiding from me? What was so important that it had to be kept under lock and key? Was I truly being excluded from their lives, or was I simply imagining it? It seemed like I was always the last to know, the last to be involved, and that thought stung more than I liked to admit. By the end of the week, I could feel my obsession with the locked door reaching its peak. I knew what I had to do. I had to find out for myself. That night, I waited until I was sure Veronica had gone out. She usually went to the market, leaving Carl to his business calls. I sat there, my mind racing, my heart pounding, and finally I stood up. This wasn't like me. I wasn't one to make impulsive decisions. I wasn't a fool. But tonight was different. Tonight, something inside me told me I couldn't wait any longer. I walked slowly to the office door, every step heavy with the weight of the decision I was about to make. The familiar, comforting hum of the house was gone, replaced by the deafening silence that seemed to stretch between us. As I stood there, my hand hovering just above the doorknob, I hesitated. What if I opened it and found nothing? What if I was just overthinking everything? What if I was wrong? But I couldn't stop myself. My fingers curled around the cold metal of the doorknob, and for a brief moment I felt like I was back in control. This was my home. This was my family. I had every right to know what was going on behind that door. Just as I was about to turn the handle, I heard it. A voice. Carl. It was faint but unmistakable, and he wasn't alone. He was talking to Veronica. The words were muffled, but the tone of the conversation was clear. It was tense. My heart stopped for a moment. They were talking about something important. And whatever it was behind that door. I froze, my hand still on the doorknob. My mind raced. Should I stay or should I leave? What were they talking about? What had I been missing? I could feel the weight of the silence pressing against me. If I opened that door, there was no turning back. If I stepped into that room, I would uncover something, whether I was ready for it or not. For a moment, I considered retreating. I thought about walking away, pretending I hadn't heard anything, pretending I didn't care. But I knew I couldn't, not anymore. I stepped back from the door, my breathing slow and deliberate. I glanced at the lock, the key still sitting in the hole, untouched, waiting for someone to turn it. The door wasn't just a physical barrier. It was a symbol of everything that had been hidden from me, everything that I had been excluded from. As I walked away, my mind was made up. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to know what was behind that door. I had to know what they were hiding. I hadn't opened the door yet, but I was sure of one thing now. It wasn't just a locked room. It was a barrier to the truth, and I wasn't going to stop until I found out what was behind it. The days stretched on, each one blending into the next. The weight of what I had heard behind that door pressed harder with each passing hour. I couldn't let it go. It was like a thorn in my side that I couldn't ignore. Veronica's words were still ringing in my ears, but the truth had yet to fully sink in. I didn't know if I was ready to face it, but the tension inside me was unbearable. The office, the secrets, the way they had been treating me, everything felt like it was spiraling out of control. I spent the next few days walking around the house in a daze, replaying the same thoughts in my head, the same questions that refused to leave. How long had this been going on? How many lies had I been fed? How many times had I been pushed to the sidelines of my own family? It was hard to shake the feeling that I wasn't just being ignored anymore. They were hiding something from me, something big. That night, I found myself standing by the door of Carl's office again, just like I had countless times before. But this time was different. My thoughts were clearer. I was no longer just a passive observer. I couldn't stand by and let them keep treating me like this. I had to know the truth. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. The time for silence had passed. It wasn't just a locked door anymore. It was a barrier between me and the truth. The air in the house felt thick with unspoken words, and I could feel the weight of them pressing down on me. I had spent too long pretending I didn't see what was happening. I had let my son and his wife dictate my place in their lives, and now they were keeping something from me, something that I was sure had to do with me. I had to confront Veronica. It wasn't something I wanted to do, but I had no choice. I had to know what they were hiding, and I had to do it now. I couldn't let another day go by without facing this head on. I walked into the living room where Veronica was sitting, flipping through a magazine. She looked up as I entered, her eyes narrowing just slightly. She didn't say anything, but the tension in the room was immediate. I could feel it in my bones. This wasn't just another one of our routine, quiet nights. This was different. I stood there for a moment, trying to find the right words. My heart was beating in my chest, but I knew I had to do this. I couldn't let her keep avoiding the truth. I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine when it was all falling apart. "Veronica," I said, my voice steady but low, "I need to know what's behind that locked door. Every night you lock it, and every night I wonder why. What are you hiding from me?" She didn't flinch at first. She looked at me, her face composed, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "Jeremiah, I told you before. That's Carl's office." "It's none of your business what's in there," she replied, her tone defensive, almost dismissive, but I wasn't backing down. "No, it's not just Carl's office. It's a symbol of everything that's wrong. You're hiding something from me, and I'm not going to pretend I don't see it anymore. What is it, Veronica? What's so important that you have to keep it locked away from me?" Her face changed then. For a moment I saw a flicker of something, guilt maybe, but it was gone in an instant. She stood up, pacing in front of me, her hands gesturing as if she could talk her way out of this. But I wasn't buying it. "I'm telling you," she said, her voice rising slightly. "You don't understand. It's not what you think. I'm just trying to protect you. Carl didn't want you to know. He thought it was for the best." The words hit me like a slap in the face. "Protect me? From what?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. Why would Carl want to protect me from the truth? Why would he keep me in the dark like this? Veronica stopped pacing, standing in front of me with a look of frustration. "It's not for you to understand. Carl made the decision. It's about the inheritance. He didn't want you to know about the financial records. He didn't want you to be upset." Her words hung in the air, but they didn't make sense. Inheritance? Financial records? What had Carl been hiding from me all this time? I had worked my whole life to provide for my family, to build a future for us, and now it felt like it had all been a lie. I felt the weight of betrayal press down on me, but I couldn't let it consume me. Not yet. "So Carl's been keeping financial secrets from me? And you're the one protecting him?" I asked, my voice steady now, but with a sharp edge to it. Veronica's eyes flickered with guilt again, but she didn't apologize. She didn't seem to care about the hurt she had caused. "Yes," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "I thought it was for the best. I didn't want to upset you." I stood there for a moment trying to process what she had just said. The truth hit me hard, but I still didn't know the full story. I had to talk to Carl. I had to hear it from him. This was bigger than just the office. This was about everything, my family, my place in it, and the lies that had been building for years. But Veronica's words left me reeling. I had no idea what this meant for us, but one thing was for sure. Nothing would ever be the same again. The silence in the house was deafening. It was the kind of silence that settles in after a storm, but you know the calm is only temporary. I hadn't expected the confrontation with Veronica to go the way it did. She told me things I never thought I'd hear, things that shook me to my core. But even after everything, I felt like I was only scratching the surface. The truth was out there, and I was determined to uncover it no matter how painful. I sat in the dim light of my living room, my mind racing. The conversation had been difficult, but it wasn't enough. Veronica had confessed, but she hadn't given me everything. I could feel the anger building inside me again, mixing with something else, something deeper. A sense of betrayal, sure, but also a desire for clarity, an understanding of why this had happened and what it all meant for me, for my family. The weight of the situation pressed down on me. I needed answers, and I needed them now. But as much as I wanted to confront Carl directly, I knew I couldn't rush in without knowing more. There was still a lot I didn't understand. The financial records, the will, the lies. It was all tied together, and I had to find the missing pieces. I decided I wasn't going to approach this recklessly. I needed evidence. I wasn't just going to take Carl's word or Veronica's anymore. If I was going to get to the truth, I needed to be methodical about it. This wasn't just about family drama anymore. This was about my legacy, about what I had worked my whole life for, and I couldn't let anyone take that from me without a fight. That night, after Veronica had gone to bed, I began my search. I knew Carl had always been secretive about certain things, but I hadn't realized just how far he was willing to go to keep me in the dark. I moved quietly through the house, my mind focused on one goal: the office. I had to start there. I needed to find something that would give me the answers I'd been searching for. I knew Carl kept things locked away. He always had. But this wasn't just about an office. This was about control. My control. Or rather, the lack of it. Every time I had tried to assert myself, every time I had tried to make my presence known in the family, it felt like I was being pushed out further and further. And I wasn't going to let that happen anymore. I walked down the hallway and stood outside Carl's office, the same place I had stood so many times before, wondering what secrets it held. I didn't knock this time. I didn't hesitate. I opened the door. Inside, the room was dimly lit by the soft glow of a desk lamp. I moved around the room slowly, my eyes scanning everything, looking for anything out of place, and then I found it. Behind the drawer of Carl's desk, tucked away behind a false panel, I found a folder. It wasn't anything extraordinary at first glance, just a plain manila folder, but as I pulled it out, I saw the words written across the top in bold black ink: Last Will and Testament. My heart dropped. I knew in that moment that this wasn't just a document, it was the truth I had been seeking. I opened the folder, my hands shaking. The words on the pages blurred for a moment, but then they became clear. This was the will. The will that Carl had hidden from me. The will that excluded me from everything I had worked for. It wasn't just a simple omission. This was a deliberate act to push me out. Everything was left to Carl and Veronica, and there was no mention of me at all. I felt a wave of nausea rise in my stomach. Betrayal. That's what it was. I had worked for this family, sacrificed so much, and Carl had been planning to shut me out the whole time. All those years of hard work, all those moments of being the patriarch, they meant nothing. Not to Carl, not to Veronica. Yana, my hands tightened around the will. I wasn't going to let this slide. I couldn't. This was the moment that everything changed. This was the moment when I took back control of my life. I left the office, the document still in my hands. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but I knew one thing for sure. Carl was going to have to answer for this. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. The next day, I knew I couldn't put it off any longer. I had to confront Carl. I wasn't going to let him hide behind his excuses, behind his manipulations. It was time to face the truth. I found Carl in the kitchen, a cup of coffee in his hands, his back turned to me. He didn't see me coming, but I didn't care. I walked up to him, holding the folder in my hand. "Carl," I said, my voice low but firm. He turned around, his eyes meeting mine. "What's this?" I asked, holding up the folder. His expression shifted for just a second, and I saw something in his eyes. Fear, maybe. But he quickly masked it. "It's nothing, Dad," he said, his voice casual. "Just some old paperwork." I didn't believe him for a second. "Don't lie to me, Carl. I know what this is," I said, opening the folder. "You've been planning this for years, haven't you?" His face darkened. "What the hell are you talking about?" I pointed to the will. "This. You've been trying to cut me out of everything. This is your plan, isn't it? To take everything I worked for and keep it from me. Well, it's not happening." Carl's face twisted in anger. "You don't understand, Dad. This was for your own good. I didn't want you to be burdened with any of this. Veronica and I, We were just trying to protect you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Protect me? By lying to me? By keeping me in the dark? No, Carl, you've been hiding the truth from me and I'm done pretending I don't see it. The silence between us was deafening. He didn't say anything for a long moment, and I could feel the anger rising inside me, but I held it back. This wasn't the time for yelling. This was the time for justice. Finally, Carl spoke, his voice low and strained. "I didn't think you'd understand." "No," I said, my voice steady. "You didn't think I'd fight back. But I'm done being your pawn, Carl. I've worked too hard for this family to let you destroy everything I've built." Carl's eyes narrowed. "You're just going to throw everything away, huh? Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you." And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there holding the will. I could feel the weight of it in my hands, the weight of everything that had been taken from me. But I wasn't walking away empty-handed. I had the truth now, and that was all I needed. The war had just begun. I stood there looking at the door to Carl's office. The papers were still in my hand, the truth now a heavy weight that I could barely process. My heart was pounding, my mind racing. I had found what I was looking for, but the battle wasn't over. It was only just beginning. This wasn't just about a document. This was about reclaiming everything I had lost, the respect, the trust, and the place I had fought for in my own family. I sat down trying to make sense of it all. My mind was in a whirlwind, but there was one thing that was certain. I wasn't backing down. No matter what it took, I was going to stand my ground. Carl had betrayed me. Veronica had lied to me. And it wasn't just about money or inheritance anymore. It was about my dignity, my legacy. They thought they could push me aside, erase me from the story, but I wasn't going to let that happen. I couldn't believe how deep the deception ran. Carl had planned this all along. I had spent years building a life for my family, working tirelessly, sacrificing my time, my energy, and my well-being. All those moments when I had been there for them, when I had supported them, they had been nothing more than pawns in Carl's game. And now he wanted to take it all from me. I couldn't let that happen. But I wasn't sure what to do next. I had the evidence now, the truth in my hands. But the question was, what would it accomplish? Confronting Carl now meant I'd have to face the truth head on. It meant facing the full extent of his betrayal and whatever else was hidden beneath the surface. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I didn't know if I could win, but I had to try. I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. I wasn't going to let my family tear itself apart without me having a say. The emotional toll of everything was weighing on me. I had spent so many years as the silent observer, the one who stood in the background while the rest of the family moved forward. I had let them make the decisions, I had let them dictate the terms. But no more. This time I was taking control. I wasn't going to be the one left behind anymore. I needed to think. I needed to clear my mind before I made my next move. So I decided to take a walk. I needed some space to breathe, to get my thoughts in order. As I stepped outside, the cool air hit my face, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of clarity. The fight wasn't just about Carl or Veronica. It was about me. It was about reclaiming the respect I had earned, the place I deserved in my family. I walked for hours, letting the weight of everything settle in. It was hard to come to terms with the fact that my own son had orchestrated all of this, but the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Carl had always been a manipulator, always pushing people around to get what he wanted. I had seen it for years, but I had ignored it. I had been blinded by my own desire to see the best in him, but now I saw the truth. When I finally returned home, I knew what I had to do. I had to confront Carl. I couldn't wait any longer. I couldn't keep letting him control the narrative. I had the evidence, I had the truth, and I wasn't going to back down. I called an old lawyer I trusted, someone who had been by my side during some of the hardest times in my life. I needed legal advice, but I also needed someone who understood what this meant. My legacy, my family, everything I had worked for. It was all on the line. The conversation with my lawyer was brief but impactful. He gave me the advice I needed, helped me organize the documents, and prepared me for what was ahead. But even with the support, there was no denying the weight of what I was about to do. Confronting Carl wasn't going to be easy, but it was necessary. This was about more than just a business deal or money. It was about my life, my worth, and my place in this family. The next few days passed in a blur. I spent my time organizing everything, gathering my evidence, reviewing the will, and preparing for the fight ahead. I knew I couldn't go into this half-hearted. I had to be ready for whatever Carl would throw at me. I couldn't afford to lose. As I sat at my desk, looking over everything, memories started flooding back. I remembered when Carl was a kid, how eager he was to learn from me, how he looked up to me, and now, here I was, preparing to fight him for everything I had worked for. The betrayal ran deep, but I couldn't dwell on that. I had to focus on the task at hand. I couldn't afford to let my emotions cloud my judgment. This wasn't just about anger. It was about standing up for what was right. And no matter how hard it was, I had to keep moving forward. I had to make Carl understand that this wasn't just his family, it was mine too. By the time I was ready to confront him, I had everything in place. The documents, the legal advice, my resolve. I stood in front of Carl's office, my hand on the door, ready to make my move. But as I stood there, a wave of doubt washed over me. Was I doing the right thing? Was I prepared for what would come after? The fear of the unknown crept in, but I pushed it aside. I couldn't back down now. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. This was it. I stood outside Carl's office, the air thick with the weight of everything I had been carrying. The papers were clenched in my hands, my heart racing in my chest. It was time. The anger that had built up over the years, the resentment that had festered in silence, it all came to a head in this one moment. I had spent too long waiting, too long letting them push me aside. I had to face Carl, and the truth had to come out. My breath hitched as I stepped forward. Every step felt heavier than the last, but the closer I got to the door, the clearer my purpose became. I wasn't the man I used to be, silent, passive, waiting for answers that never came. I was a man who had had enough. It was time to take control, to demand respect, and most importantly, to make Carl face the consequences of his actions. I opened the door to Carl's office, and there he was, sitting behind his desk as if nothing was wrong, as if I hadn't been seething with anger for months. His eyes flickered up when he saw me, and for a moment he seemed surprised. But that surprise quickly turned into a calm, dismissive smile. He wasn't expecting this confrontation, but I could tell he wasn't taking me seriously. "Dad, what's this about?" he asked, his tone casual, almost bored. I could feel the fire ignite inside me, the nerve of him. "Cut the crap, Carl," I said, my voice low but firm. "I'm done letting you and Veronica push me around. I know what you've been hiding." Carl sat back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Oh, really?" His voice was dripping with sarcasm. "And what exactly do you think you know?" I slammed the papers down on his desk, watching his eyes widen as the documents spread out in front of him. "I know about the will," I said, each word hitting harder than the last. "I know you've been planning this for years. You've been plotting to take everything from me." For a second, Carl didn't speak. I could see the gears turning in his head, but he quickly composed himself. "Dad, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. You're overreacting. This isn't what you think." I felt my blood boil. "You think I'm overreacting? You think I don't know what you've been up to? You've been lying to me, sneaking behind my back, trying to erase me from everything I built, and now you're going to sit there and tell me it's nothing?" Carl shifted in his seat, avoiding my gaze for a moment. "You don't understand, Dad. I did this for you. I did it for the family. I was trying to protect you." The words were like a slap to my face. I couldn't believe the audacity of this man. "Protect me?" I shouted. "You think betraying me is protecting me?" Carl flinched, but he quickly regained his composure. "You don't know everything, Dad. There's more to this than you understand." I was done with his excuses. The anger that had been simmering inside me for so long finally broke free. "No more lies, Carl. You've been manipulating everything, trying to make me seem like the fool. I'm not going to let you get away with this." I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the will, the one Carl had tried to hide. I slapped it on the desk in front of him, watching his expression shift from confidence to fear. "There it is," I said. "The truth. You tried to cut me out of everything. You tried to take it all from me. And you've been lying to everyone, including yourself, if you think I'm just going to let you walk away with this." Carl's face paled as he reached for the papers, his hands trembling slightly. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said, his voice softer now, defensive. "This isn't just about the money. It's about keeping the family together. You don't get it. You never did. I shook my head. No, Carl. You don't get it. This was never about family. This was about you wanting control. About you trying to make me irrelevant. Carl leaned back in his chair, trying to regain some sense of control. You think this is easy for me? You think I want to be in this position? But I'm doing what's best for all of us. You've been stuck in the past, Dad. You've been holding us back. His words cut through me, but I wasn't going to let him manipulate me anymore. I stood tall, looking him dead in the eye. You're wrong. You've been holding us back, Carl. And now it's time for you to face the consequences of your actions. Carl's expression darkened. He leaned forward, his fists clenched. You think I'm afraid of you. You're nothing but a traitor to this family. That was it. I wasn't going to back down anymore. I stood my ground, my voice steady but firm. You're the one who's betrayed this family, not me, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm taking control of my life, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. The silence between us was thick, the tension suffocating. For a moment I thought he might lash out, but instead he just stared at me, his jaw tight. He wasn't going to back down either. I'm not finished with you yet, he muttered before standing up and walking toward the door. I took a deep breath, realizing that this was far from over. This was just the beginning. I had taken my stand, and I wasn't going to let Carl or anyone else push me down again. I'm done with your games, I said as he reached for the door. The next move is mine, and I won't stop until I get what's rightfully mine. Carl paused at the door, looking back at me with a mixture of contempt and disbelief. You think you've won? You haven't. You're just starting a war you'll never win. But I didn't flinch. I wasn't afraid anymore. I took a deep breath and said, we'll see about that. I watched him leave the room, knowing that the fight wasn't over. It was only just beginning. I stood there, my hand hovering over the door to Carl's office. Every muscle in my body was tight with anticipation, every nerve on edge. The moment had arrived. No more silence, no more lies, no more playing the passive fool. I had spent too long waiting for others to see me, for Carl to hear me. Today, I was making my voice heard. I could feel the heat of determination burning in my chest, pushing me forward. I wasn't walking away from this, not this time. I pushed the door open. Carl looked up from his desk, the calm expression on his face faltering for a split second when he saw me standing there, papers in hand. He was used to running the show, calling the shots, keeping everyone in line. But today, he wasn't in control. Today, I was... What's going on, Dad? His tone was casual, as if this was just another day. His arrogance grated on me, but I kept my voice steady. You know what this is about, I said, stepping into the room. It's about time we talked about what you've been doing, about the way you've been running things behind my back. It's time for the truth to come out. Carl's face tightened, but he didn't back down. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been trying to do what's best for this family. You've always been so caught up in your own way of doing things, Dad. The words stung, but they were nothing compared to the betrayal I felt. You've been manipulating everything, Carl. The money, the business, the legacy I built. You've been lying to me, and you've been lying to yourself if you think I wouldn't see it. Carl's eyes narrowed. You're overreacting. You've never been the one to make the tough decisions. You've always been the one sitting back, watching everyone else do the hard work. I could feel the heat rising in my chest. I've worked my entire life to build something. And you've been tearing it down piece by piece behind closed doors while I was too busy believing in the family. Dad, it's not like that. Carl stood up now, trying to appear calm, but I could see the tension in his posture. I'm trying to protect you, trying to protect this family from what's coming. Protect me, I repeated, my voice rising. You've been trying to cut me out, to push me aside like I don't matter. All this time you've been pretending like you care, but I know the truth now. It's all about you, isn't it? Carl's face flushed, and for a moment he seemed to lose his composure. But only for a moment. You've never understood, Dad. You've always been stuck in the past, refusing to change. I'm doing this for us. I'm doing this for the future. I clenched my fists, anger boiling over. The future? The future you've been planning without me? You think I don't see what's going on? You've been manipulating everything, Carl. And now it's time for you to face it. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the papers, the will, the financial documents, the proof of everything Carl had been hiding. I laid them out on the desk, watching Carl's face change as he saw the evidence. "Here it is," I said, my voice steady. "The truth you've been hiding. The legacy you've been trying to steal from me." Carl's eyes darted over the papers, and for the first time I saw a flicker of panic in his expression. "You don't know everything, Dad," he muttered, his voice shaking now. "This isn't what you think. You've always been so blinded by your own pride. I've been trying to protect you from the harsh reality." "Protect me?" I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "You've been trying to erase me, trying to make me invisible, and now you're trying to play the victim? You're not fooling me, Carl." He shook his head, his voice growing more desperate. "You're wrong, Dad. I've always done what's best for the family. Everything I've done has been for you, for all of us." I stepped closer to the desk, feeling the weight of the moment settle over me. "No, this is about control. This is about you wanting everything, the business, the money, the legacy, and you've been willing to destroy everything I built to get it." Carl's anger flared, his face turning red. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're too old, too out of touch. You never understood how things work now. You're just holding us back." His words hit harder than I expected. They were meant to cut deep, to make me feel small, but they didn't. They only made me more determined. "You don't get it, Carl," I said, my voice low and steady. "You've been running things your way, but it's over now. You've taken enough from me, from this family. It's time for you to face the consequences." Carl stood up, his face contorted with rage. "You think you can just walk in here and take everything from me? You think you can take control? I'll ruin you, Dad. You have no idea what you're up against." But I didn't flinch. I stood tall, my voice firm. "I'm done being afraid of you. You can threaten me all you want, but I'm not walking away. I'm not backing down. You've lost. It's over." For a moment, Carl just stared at me, his chest heaving with anger. But then slowly the rage in his eyes began to fade, replaced by a look of disbelief. "You've won, haven't you?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "You finally figured it all out." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Carl sat back down in his chair, his shoulders slumping. "I didn't want it to be like this," he whispered. "I didn't want to lose everything." I looked at him, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and pity. This wasn't the victory I had hoped for, but it was the only one that mattered. "It didn't have to be like this," I said, my voice softer now. "You made your choice." With that, I turned and walked toward the door, my heart pounding in my chest. The fight was over, but the consequences were just beginning. I shut the door behind me, leaving Carl alone with his guilt. And as I stepped out of the office, I knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I stood at the door of the office again, but this time I wasn't hesitant. The weight of everything that had brought me here pressed on my chest like a stone. Today wasn't just about family. Today was about truth. Today was about taking back everything Carl tried to take from me. I took a deep breath, feeling the calm before the storm. I wasn't the man who had walked in here so many months ago. I was stronger now, empowered by everything I had endured. I pushed the door open. Carl was still sitting behind his desk, that same smug look on his face. But I wasn't fooled anymore. I saw through him, saw the lies he'd wrapped himself in. I walked in, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the silent office. The familiar space suddenly felt foreign to me. The same desk, the same walls, now just a stage for a final confrontation. "Carl," I said, my voice steady but cold, "this ends today." He looked up, surprised by the finality in my tone. "What's this about, Dad?" "You don't need to keep this up. This is just your pride talking." "My pride?" I repeated. "This has nothing to do with pride. It has everything to do with the years you've wasted, the lies you've told, and the family you've torn apart. It's about time you faced the truth, Carl." He stood, trying to regain his composure, but the walls were closing in on him. "What truth? You've always been stubborn. You've never understood the pressures I've been under. I've done what I had to do to protect the business, to protect all of us." "Protect us?" I laughed bitterly. "You've been protecting yourself, Carl. I've watched you manipulate everything, our family, the business, the legacy. You've stolen from me, and you've done it without any remorse." He shifted uncomfortably, trying to deflect. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to hurt you? It was never about hurting you, Dad. You just don't understand how things have changed. I had to make hard choices. You've been making those hard choices, all right, but they've been to your benefit, not ours, I shot back, my anger rising. You've been running everything behind my back, making decisions that I should have been a part of like I was some kind of outsider. You've stripped me of everything. Carl's expression darkened, but he wasn't ready to back down. I'm not the one who let the business fall apart. I'm the one who kept this family from crashing. I'm the one who's kept it all afloat. And now you come here acting like I've done something wrong? I'm done listening to your lies, I said, walking towards him. This isn't about protecting anyone. It's about you trying to cover up everything you've done. The truth is out now, Carl. It's too late for excuses. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the documents. I placed them on the desk, watching Carl's face change as he saw the evidence spread out before him. This is the truth, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. This is the truth you've been hiding. The will, the financial records, everything. Carl's face paled. He stepped back, his hands trembling slightly. You don't know what you're doing. This isn't what you think it is. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. I know exactly what it is. You've been planning to push me out of everything for years, Carl. You've been manipulating me, lying to me, and now the truth is staring you in the face. He tried to recover, his voice shaky but defiant. You don't get it. I've done what I had to do. I've kept things together. You've been out of touch. You've been stuck in the past while I've had to face the future. You've never understood the pressures I've had to deal with. You never wanted to listen. I wasn't listening anymore. I wasn't the man who let others dictate his life. You think I don't know what you've been doing. You've been lying, stealing, and keeping everything from me. And now you want to play the martyr? Carl's expression faltered for just a moment, but then his pride came roaring back. I did it all for this family. I did it for you, for all of us. You'll never understand. You've only been doing it for yourself, I said coldly. And now it's over. Carl tried to gather himself. He took a step back and looked around the room, but the room was no longer his. The control he once held was slipping. You can't just take everything from me, he said, his voice low but desperate. I'll fight this. I'll use everything I've got. You'll regret this. I didn't flinch. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Carl, and I won't regret this, not when I'm finally standing up for myself. Carl's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw something resembling fear flicker across his face. What do you want from me? You're going to take everything? Take the business? Take the money? What will that prove? It's not about that, is it? No, I said, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. It's about justice. It's about putting an end to this. You won't destroy what's left of this family, and you won't take what's rightfully mine. He stepped forward, his voice shaking. Please, Dad. You don't have to do this. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I should have been better. The words hit me harder than I expected. I'd always wanted to hear him admit it, but hearing it now, when it was too late, only left me hollow. He didn't deserve my forgiveness, and I wasn't giving it to him. I'm done with you, Carl, I said quietly. It's not about forgiveness anymore. It's about making sure this never happens again. I turned away from him, walking toward the door. You'll face the consequences of your actions. I won't carry this burden anymore. It's yours to bear now. I opened the door, and as I stepped out of the office, I didn't look back. The fight was over, but something inside me had changed. For the first time in years, I was free. I shut the door behind me, leaving Carl alone with his guilt. And as I stepped out of the office, I knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I sat on the park bench, staring at the ground, the weight of everything I'd been through still hanging over me like a shadow. The breeze brushed my face, but it didn't bring the relief I was hoping for. The sky was gray, much like the state of my thoughts. It had been a long road, and now that the fight was over, the silence felt deafening. It was like the calm after a storm, still but full of the residue of what had come before. I didn't need to look back anymore. The past had its grip on me for far too long, but now I had finally taken control. The realization was like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I didn't have to carry Carl's mistakes with me anymore. I was free, free from the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal. I wasn't going to keep running anymore. A soft chuckle escaped me. A few months ago, I wouldn't have imagined that I'd ever feel this way again. But here I was, tired, yes, but free. I hadn't known what real freedom was until now. It wasn't about winning the battle. It was about moving on, about finding peace with myself, no matter what the past held. And for the first time in years, I was ready to leave it behind. I stood up slowly, feeling the cool air wrap around me. The journey had taken more than I had expected. It had cost me more than I had ever anticipated. But it had also given me something I thought was long gone, a chance to rebuild. As I walked away from the park, I knew what I had to do. I had to face what remained, Carl's legacy. But this time, it wouldn't be in anger or hate. It would be in a way that let me move on, once and for all. I drove to the cemetery, the road familiar yet distant. Carl was gone, but his influence lingered, like smoke still hanging in the air. I pulled up to the grave, the cool wind cutting through the quiet. It was a simple headstone, a far cry from the legacy he tried to build. It felt so strange standing here, knowing everything that had happened, and now standing before the man who had caused it all. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. There was a sense of finality now. Anger had its place, but it had faded with time. I could still feel the echoes of the years we'd fought, the years I'd spent being manipulated and misled. But now, standing here, I didn't feel the need to shout. I didn't feel the need to confront the man who had ruined so much. Carl had left his mark on my life and maybe on the family too, but I wasn't going to let it consume me. Not anymore. I spoke aloud, though I knew he couldn't hear me. You don't get to control me anymore, Carl. I've fought long enough. It's over. The wind blew, rustling the leaves as if agreeing with me. I stood there for a long time, just listening to the stillness. The cemetery was peaceful, the world quiet. It felt like the right place to end this chapter, not with a bang, but with a whisper of closure. That night I sat down to think about the road ahead. There was no more revenge in me, no more fights. I didn't need to burn bridges to feel like I was free. I just needed to forgive, for my own sake. I didn't have to forget. But I couldn't keep living with this weight on my shoulders. It wasn't an easy choice. I was still angry, still hurt by what Carl had done, but I knew that forgiveness wasn't about him. It was about me. I wasn't going to let his actions shape my future anymore. I would carry the lessons, but not the pain. I had the chance to rebuild now, to pick up the pieces of my life. I'd lost so much, but I had a chance to gain something back. It wasn't about money or legacy. It was about peace. I had a long road ahead, but this time, I was ready to walk it. The next morning, I reached out to some old friends. I reconnected with people who had meant something to me before all this chaos. It felt good, like a step towards something real. I didn't have a map for the future, but I knew I wasn't walking into it alone. There were people who still cared, people who understood that it was never about being perfect, but about being there for each other. I even picked up a few new hobbies, things I'd put on the shelf too long. The garden needed work and I started spending more time with it. It was something I could control, something that was mine. One evening, my children came over. The old house had echoes of the past, but now it felt different. We talked, laughed, shared stories. I wasn't perfect, none of us were, but I was present. That's what mattered. I wasn't going to let the bitterness of the past ruin what was still good. Things were changing, not in huge ways, but in the small ways that made a difference. I planted a tree in the yard, a small gesture, but it meant something. It was a symbol of new beginnings, of growth, of moving on. The tree wasn't just a plant, it was a promise to myself that I wasn't going to let the past control me anymore. The future wasn't clear. It never was. But I was ready to face it. As I stood there looking at the tree, I realized that everything I had fought for had brought me to this point. I wasn't the same man who had walked into that office so many months ago. I was stronger now, wiser even. I knew that life wasn't always about the big battles. It was about the small victories, the quiet moments, the decisions that shaped who you were, who you wanted to be. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was moving forward. I don't know what the future holds, I said aloud, my voice steady. But for the first time in a long time, I'm ready to face it.